Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Luke. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report. So, check me out on this one. We got some new news, but it's really not new news. You understand what I'm saying? Alex Smith reportedly going to be released either today or tomorrow. Now, reports are Ron Rivera, fresh off of a vacation, was out of the country, is now back at Washington headquarters, and now some shit's about to get done, okay? Guys that they want to re-sign prior to free agency or slap a franchise tag on, that's about to get done. Meanwhile, guys that they see as dead weight that they're looking to shed, those guys are about to be chopped off, okay? So this isn't a surprise. And we talked about how guys after the season, players, coaches alike, once the season's done, they like to go off and just have a little vacay. You know, look, you're working hard for 6 straight months. It's a grind, and for some teams, it's longer than that. If you stay into the playoffs, it's a little bit longer of a grind. So when you get a chance to just unwind, you do. You leave the country a lot of times with these players. They go out. Remember Deshaun Watson when his thing first unfolded? They were off in Cancun somewhere, and Ron's back now. And they were doing everything virtually, reportedly. All the coaching staff, everyone was doing everything from home. So now they're back in the facility, and looks like some things are about to get done. What did we talk about last week? This is the reason, while this is new news, he's going to be released. We didn't know what was going to happen. We said he's probably done in Washington after what he said last week in GQ. And he knew the writing was already on the wall. You don't make those statements publicly if you expect to be back with an organization. That's all. They were seething comments. Again, I didn't have any problems with what he said. That's the way he felt. I didn't have a problem with the way Ron Rivera and everybody inside that building handled Alex Smith. Maybe there should have been a much better level of communication. Maybe that is where the ball was dropped. Maybe. I don't know. All I know is that Alex Smith made those comments, and I said, well, he must have already been told he's not being brought back. And remember, before the GQ comments came out, there was an article that was written with Alex Smith saying he wanted to play somewhere, and we talked about that. And I said, that doesn't sound like a man that has been reassured that he's going to be back. Sounds like a guy that knows his football days in Washington are over, and if he's going to continue his career, it won't be here in Washington. So we were connecting dots a long time ago. Now we're finally done with the picture that it painted, and that picture is Washington's looking to recoup that $13.5 million that they could save by getting rid of Alex Smith this offseason, and they're going to move on. And then I want to go to the other piece. First of all, let me say this before we move on. Golf clap for Ron Rivera, Marty Herney, and Martin Mayhew, because I didn't want Alex Smith back. And let me also say this while I'm here, because I don't want to forget. I am grateful for what Alex Smith has done for this organization. Okay, over the last 3 or 4 years, however long it's been, it feels like he's been here about 3 years or so. He won a bunch of games. We only made it to the playoffs once, but maybe that was because he got injured. I don't think we were going to make the playoffs that first year he was here, but you know, a lot of people debate we were, whatever the case may be. He got injured. Didn't think he would come back. He proved everybody wrong. He did come back, and not only did he come back, he led this team to the playoffs. We're forever indebted to Alex Smith for helping change this culture. If this thing turns around the way that we hope, and Ron Rivera actually is able to grab the reins of this organization and steer it in the proper direction, Alex Smith is a part of that. As much as, you know, he had to say about Ron Rivera, they could have cut him. Ron could have cut him. Ron could have not given him the opportunity. So it goes both ways. At the end of the day, I'm appreciative of what Alex Smith did, but I wasn't appreciative enough to say, hey, I want you back at, you know, whatever amount of money he was supposed to be making. And I'm willing to eat $13.5 million that we can actually have on the cap. No, no, sir. No, sirree, Bob. I needed him to go much faster than slow. And it looks like Ron, Marty, and Martin agreed, and they're moving on. Speaking of which, moving on, I'm moving on. I'm moving on like Maya, right? They're going to do something at quarterback this offseason. I told you this. I said it on last week's Washington Football Report. They're doing something at quarterback. Now, what? We don't know. I think I figured out the puzzle. I think I know what this organization's going to do this offseason at the quarterback position. Hear me out. So, I got to thinking. There was another report that Marcus Mariota was heavily pursued by Washington this offseason. That's not, again, more new news because we hadn't had that confirmed. But again, it's not new news because we've already heard this before. But it never has been confirmed. Well, it was today. Okay? That said, we've talked about Ron wanting to bring somebody in. He's not comfortable, nor should he be, going into camp with just Kyle Allen, because I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he'll be back here in Washington. They've already re-signed Taylor Heineke. You can't be comfortable with those two. Neither one of them finished the season healthy. Heineke only played in one full game. He played a quarter, and then he played one full game, and he couldn't finish the season healthy. Kyle Allen started, 4 games, I believe? Giants twice, Rams, and Cowboys. And he got hurt in 2 of those 4 games. And the second time he got hurt, he didn't finish the season. Okay? So, even if you believe in their talent and feel like they're great fits for Scott Turner's system, you can't deny the fact that neither one of these guys have proven to be able to stay healthy. So, I don't blame them just off of that fact alone. Just ignoring the fact that neither one of these guys have done this at a consistently high level at all in this league, okay? Just going off of the injury standpoint, I get it. I understand why an upgrade is needed, or at least they feel like one is needed. They went after Stafford. We talked about that. They were in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. That's still ongoing. Don't think he's going to land here anyway. He's got a no-trade clause, so I don't see him wanting to come to Washington. But that's nor here nor there. They were interested in him. And then they were interested in Marcus Mariota. And they were interested in Sam Darnold. But back to Marcus Mariota. That's the guy that I told you I was really interested in. I think there's another second act there and another opportunity for a guy that was a former, top 5 draft pick to go somewhere and rekindle his career and really show why he was a top 5 pick. We saw Tannehill do it in Tennessee. I'm saying, why can't Marcus Mariota do the same thing here in Washington? So I think Washington approached the Raiders and they said, hey, not willing to give you a day 2 pick, but I will part ways with the day 3 pick. I'll give you a 5th for Marcus Mariota. And the Raiders are like, I was thinking more along the lines of one of your 3s. Okay, you got 2 of them. I'd like to get one of those. And Washington was like, nah, come on, man, stop playing. It's Marcus Mariota. You're not keeping him anyway, okay? You're going to release him if no one trades for him. You're stuck. That's why you re-signed Nathan Peterman. Don't try to play me. I know what you're doing here. And the Raiders like, hey, look, man, got other teams interested? If you don't want to pony up the 3, I'll keep it pushing. Well, Washington said, keep it pushing then. We'll be in touch. And that's how that conversation ended. The Raiders overvalued Mariota's trade value on the market, as they should. This is the time that you do that. You see if you can pull the wool over some poor team's eyes. Washington didn't fall for the bait, as they would have back in past years. They didn't fall for the bait. They know that this thing's going to come back around and fall into their lap. So here's what I'm thinking they're thinking, they being Ron Rivera, Marty Herney, and Martin Mayhew. If they can't get a guy that they love in the draft, okay, and I don't see Mariota moving until the draft, they feel like this is similar to their Trent Williams situation from last year. Remember, they tried to pull the wool over someone's eyes in the offseason. Nobody bit. Nobody wanted to give us anything. They felt like we were backed into a corner, that Trent wanted out. He wasn't going to play for us. And so nobody was really willing to part ways with the one or the twos or whatever the case may be that they were looking for. No one was willing to part ways with what we were looking for Trent. Deadlines spur action. We've talked about this already. As you get to the draft, if Washington isn't able to get Mac Jones or Trey Lance or Justin Fields, and I think they're targeting one of those three quarterbacks, if they're not able to get their hands, I think particularly they're after Fields or Jones. I think those are the two that they're really smitten by. I think they know that Trey Lance is a guy that's going to need some time. You know, with the other two, you may be able to plug and play that guy. He may be able to come in and win the job day one and hit the ground running with it. Take your lumps immediately and be ready to win the year after, if not in year one. Whatever the case may be, I think they want a young quarterback in the draft. If they're not able to get that guy, and they're thinking right now, Mac Jones is going to fall to them at 19, but then when you hear Peter King, and Peter Schming, I'm not a massive Peter King's fan, but he is dialed into the league. And he thinks Mac Jones is going to go top 10, and he thinks he's going to go in front of Justin Fields. I beg to differ. Vehemently disagree. But that said, there may be more interest for Mac Jones than once perceived, meaning he may not be available. We may see 5 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks, which is crazy because I didn't see that coming. It's a bit of a change up. Thought it would be 4 in the top 10, more likely than not 4 in the top 8. And then that 5th quarterback could go anywhere between, 15 and 20. That's my thought process. Well, that might change. We'll see. At any rate, in any event, I think that they're going to do exactly what was done to them last year with Trent Williams. They're going to get to the draft. They're going to spend the capital that the Raiders want right in their face. Spend the 2/3 if they don't use those to move up in the draft to get a guy, whatever the case may be. And then when day 3 starts, Washington's going to pick up the phone if Mariota's still available, and I surmise he still will be available. They're going to pick up the phone just like the the San Francisco 49ers did starting day 3, picked up the phone, and they're going to call and they're going to say, hey, what do you want for Trent Williams? And Washington's going to pick up the phone and they're going to ask the Raiders, what do you want for Marcus Mariota? And the Raiders are going to say, a 4, which is what Washington wanted to give up the entire time. Again, in negotiations, you never actually start with what the end goal really is. They wanted to give up a 4, so you lowball the Raiders with your first offer, which is a 5. Hey, if they bite it, great, even better. But you don't expect the Raiders to take a 5 for Marcus Mariota. They want a 3 for Mariota. They want a day 2 pick. You're not giving them that. You want to meet somewhere. You want them to feel like they're getting a deal. So you want to meet somewhere in between. I told you I'm willing to come off of a 4th round pick. A day 3 pick to me is the best you get for Mariota. It's a 4th rounder. And I think the Raiders will be willing to take a 4th round pick for a guy that if they don't trade, they're going to have to release. His salary is too much. They're not looking to pay him what he is going to have to be paid this offseason. I think Washington, if they don't get a young quarterback, will end up getting Marcus Mariota in the draft at the beginning of day number 3 of the NFL draft, and Mariota will have a chance. And look, Ron did not lie to Taylor Heineke when he said there will be a competition, because unlike if you trade for Sam Darnold, you don't have to play Mariota. It's a 1-year deal. It's a rental. If Mariota can't beat out Taylor Heineke and Kyle Allen, then maybe he's not the guy. I get it. Heineke and Allen are both very well versed in Scott Turner's language and offense. They should have a leg up. But if Mariota can't come in here, crunch the system, figure it out, and beat those guys out. He was the number 2 pick overall in the draft. If he can't beat 2 undrafted guys out, then maybe he doesn't need to be back here. Or maybe you see flashes You like him. You bring him back next year on a 1-year deal, all right, to compete again now that he's more comfortable. Maybe that's something you entertain. But for me, I think there will be a competition whether they get Mariota or not, whether they draft a young guy or not. There will be a competition in camp to see who the starter quarterback will be. I think that starter ultimately is Marcus Mariota when it's all said and done, because I don't think Washington's going to get a quarterback in the draft. That's my jigsaw puzzle in all the pieces that I've put together, and that's the picture that is left once I'm done. So I think Washington was interested in Mariota, wanted to see what the Raiders' interest was in trading him. They found out that the Raiders were definitely willing to part ways, but they also felt like the Raiders were playing hardball. Understandably so. Okay, Washington did the same exact thing with Trent Williams last year. What did Washington ultimately have to do? They took what they could get during the draft. Deadline spur action as we get to April, and no one's calling on Marcus Mariota. As we know, that market is cooled. Nobody's calling the Raiders anymore for Marcus Mariota. So once April gets here and draft picks start coming off the board and the Raiders start getting antsy and they realize, all right, if we're going to deal him, it's got to be this weekend. And Washington picks up the phone after the first 2 days of the draft. And they say, all right, that third rounder you were asking for, we spent it already, both of them. But we still got a fourth rounder. You interested? And the Raiders say, all right, yeah, I'm interested in that. Let me get that. Cool. That's how this gets done. Washington ends up with Marcus Mariota, and we got ourselves a quarterback competition in August. So I want your comments on this situation. Look, Alex being released here in the next 24 to 48 hours, no surprise. I think we all anticipated that after we connected the dots. I want to play somewhere next season. And then the GQ article to me blew it out of the water. I told you guys last week, if you're going to be back with the team, you don't kill them like that in an article. You don't lambast them for the past. You let bygones be bygones, and that's water under the bridge. Well, when he outed him like that, all that meant to me was that he had already been told by Ron Rivera, hey, we're releasing you. We're releasing you. We're not going to bring you back. He already knew. So he felt armed and dangerous, and he felt like, I'm about to unload on these clowns. That's fine. I got no problems with Alex doing that. I still thank him for his service, but we got to move on. We got 13.5 million reasons why we got to move on from Alex Smith. And I'm not mad at not a single one of them. So what do you think about Alex being released? And more importantly, what do you think about my scenario? What do you think about what I just told you I think is going to happen this offseason with the quarterback position? Leave it down in the comment section. Cannot wait to read it. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys on Thursday night. We'll probably have a lot to talk about. Doesn't sound like Ron is going to stop there at just releasing Alex Smith. Sounds like some shit's going to get done this week. Looking forward to that. Maybe they re-sign Reuben Foster. Maybe they don't. You know, we'll see. Maybe they re-sign Kyle Allen this week. Maybe they don't. We'll see. I think some things are going to happen by all accounts. Ron's back and he's ready to get busy. So keep your eyes peeled as some things could go down in Washington this week. That said, I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys later on in the week. Make sure, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already done so. All right, that's going to do it for me. Your man, Louie T. I'll see you guys on the other side. Have a good one. Louie T Network.